Well, it is Pastor George Sayor and Pastor Darin Stone with you on another episode of Grace to Stand. And this is our last episode of 2022. We're approaching the new year. And, on one level, it's January 1st. It's just another beginning of a month, but it's also the beginning of a new year. And for many people in our cultural context, this is a time where people make resolutions, and you're going to see lots of commercials for Planet Fitness and all the deals that they're going to have at all the gyms, because everybody's going to go out and lose all this weight in the month of January and change their whole lifestyles. And I just I'm wondering and thinking along with George, and I'm sure you are as well. What are the implications of this for the Christian? I mean, is there anything about it that is of value for the Christian life to sort of take stock of your own discipleship and your own walk with the Lord, and think about the person that God has called you to be, and that you want to be for His glory in the upcoming year? And I guess, George, that's where I would start us off, and maybe throw that out to you. Is what is the value of taking stock of your life and your worship at the end of 2022 and as you approach the new year?
Sure. Yes. I love the new year for that reason. It's like a reset, and it is arbitrary, right? It's a date on a calendar, and anything you can do on January 1st, you can do on October, whatever. As a matter of fact, typically around the new year, like a lot of people, when I was younger, I never thought like this, but now it's like, yeah, I need to start losing some weight. I got to exercise. And, and that's just such a common thing. I used to laugh at that. And now that I'm almost 50 or in my upper 40s, I find that. But when I discovered that in October, I said, why do I have to wait till the new year? And, so I actually started a diet, and hopefully toward a healthier way of life as opposed to just a diet. But in November, I lost 12 pounds. And so I was able to lose some weight before the holiday season, which has been tough because we ate a lot in November. Yeah, I think it is arbitrary, but it is helpful, And in my own life, I've been a driven person. I've worked in corporate America. I worked for Procter & Gamble. I was an engineer and was very much into business philosophy and business books. And so setting goals is important, because if you're not setting goals, like, what are you accomplishing? Like, that's kind of what I've always thought. Like, you're just kind of floundering about in life. And a lot of people are fine with that, but I've been just programmed to, you set goals and you achieve goals, and that's how you move forward, And so I love the new year. I love, it's an opportunity to, arbitrary or not, set goals to accomplish for the year. And sometimes those things are straight up accomplishments. Sometimes they're just to create better habits. But whatever the case, I think it's helpful. And for me, it always starts with a reflection on the previous year. And maybe I got this too in the business world when you do performance reviews for employees, and I've done a number of them. I used to love helping employees with career development. It's like you look at what you've done in the past year, measured against what you said you were going to do, and then you say, okay, what did I do well? What didn't I do well? And then what do I want to do for the next year? And so that's kind of the way I always like to do it. And so as I come up to 2023, and I can't even believe I'm saying 2023. We're getting old, Darin.
Yes.
I mean, I remember when to the year 2000 was in the disc, in front of us, and now it's like,
yes.
But it's like it's a good time to reflect on 2022, and so maybe we'll start there. What are some things that come to mind for you in 2022? What are things you're grateful for? What are things you learned? What are things you accomplished? Like, do you have any, not a comprehensive thing, but some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think 2022 for me has been a year where I've I've sought to be more engaged in what I'm reading, and to be more intentional about that, to be more focused upon what I want to learn about God and myself and God's world. And so I think that's been something that has been beneficial to my soul, and that really kind of started out last January. Part of that was because I started a doctoral program, and that's certainly kept me disciplined because I've had to do it. But right. I think that's, things like that are good. What can you do to sort of force you, to discipline you when you don't have, you don't have to do something. I mean, otherwise there's a lot of reading I wouldn't have to do, or work I wouldn't have to do. And sometimes the tyranny of the urgent wins the day. So having something like that that's disciplining me, I started in January, and that has really helped. And I think we've really tried to be even more intentional about our family worship time and discipling our children. So I'm grateful for that. But there are a lot of things where I just sort of feel like I've slacked off and haven't been as faithful as I would like to be as well. And so you get to January of the new year, and just the main value for me is just to stop and think about that. It's purely a cultural thing that helps us to be a little bit more reflective as to the progress and the growth that I've experienced in my life, and that maybe we've experienced in our life, and maybe some of the areas where we've retreated or sort of lacked the faithfulness that maybe we would like to see ourselves have. So we can double down on that. So one of the things that I really want to do in the new year, I've always been terrible at scripture memorization. I'm not that great at memorizing, and
that's hard to believe, because you can rattle off Bible verses and hymns like nobody I know, or the Westminster Standards. So if you're not good at that, Darin, then I have no hope.
It's just, well, I mean, I guess it's just exposure, but I don't think that I have. I want scripture to flow from my mouth, and not so much literally. I mean, where I'm just annoying people with Bible verses all the time. But what I mean by that is I want to face a it's like being an athlete, right? I mean, when athletes face when they face that curveball coming at them, and they've seen it 100 times, they start to, well, more than 100 times, thousands of times. The professionals, I mean, like they see it come, and they start to learn how to hit it. The quarterback starts to learn, when the pocket is collapsing, what to do. I mean, how to respond to all that, and it becomes something that you do naturally. I mean, like it just becomes like that's how you react, because you practice so much, because you've learned so much, because you've seen it so much, and you don't have to think about it. You just do it because you've had so much practice with it. I think that Scripture is a lot the same way. That when I'm faced with unjust criticism, or I'm faced with something that is really a fierce temptation, like I just sense myself wanting to cave into this and please the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of possessions. I mean, like I really want to give into that. Where do I automatically go, right? I mean, am I automatically? Is it going to be the word, the promises, and the precepts of God as revealed in his word, or is it going to be to pleasing the flesh? Because the flesh is, I mean, that speaks loudly. I mean, I've got that memorized. I know that. I want to be able to respond with the word and be anchored into that. And so I think one of the things that I want to do this year is to commit myself a little bit more to scripture memorization. One of the things that I did is I downloaded a couple months ago this app. It's from Desiring God. It's John Piper, but it's called Fighter Verses, and it's an app, and it cost me $3, and it's probably the best $3 I've ever spent. It's $3 for the year. It's just $3. Everybody has that somewhere in the crevices of their sofa. There's change for that, and it just gives me a verse to memorize every week, or a couple verses to memorize every week, and it puts it to music, and it gives you like little tests that you can take to kind of capture your memorization. And if I can be disciplined to do that 30 out of the 52 weeks out of the year, that's 30 verses that I'll have memorized by the end of this year that I didn't have memorized at the beginning of the year.
That's awesome. I'm going to get that. $3. There you go.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's a suggestion. That's a good suggestion. I'm going to do that. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's just one of my resolutions where I want to grow for this year.
So for me, as I look back on 2022, I tend to set about 5 goals a year, believe it or not, and I do it in under the acronym FISHER because I like to fish. But FISH, skip the ER, and there could be an E, but financial, intellectual, relational, spiritual. Skip the emotional because it's all based on emotional, but I think I said them all. And so the financial aspect is not necessarily, it's not, I mean, I make what I make. It's not make more money or save more money, but it's like, how am I using my physical resources?
Right.
And we had some projects we wanted to do around the house, and so we did that. And intellectual, like you, I'm in a doctoral program, and sticking with it has been a goal because each class I want to quit. I don't know. Have you gotten to that point where you feel like you want to quit?
Not quite. I guess I just wish that I would like to be quicker and just sharper and just on it better. But I do feel like, man, sometimes I'm just overwhelmed because the tasks of family life and ministry and all the other responsibilities of life, plus that on top of it is a lot.
I know. There comes a point where you're past the point of no return, but I'm not there yet. Right. So there's always this desire to maybe want to quit. Relational. Yeah. Well, some of those are private. I have some very private relational goals that, but some things are intentional. Monthly time with each of my kids. I mean, I'm always doing everything with my kids and family, but like one-on-one intentional time. And I wouldn't say every month I had, distinctly one-on-one, like I took a specific kid out to dinner or breakfast or something, although I've done that a lot.
Yeah, right.
But I've done pretty well. And with my wife, Susan, and one of the greatest things that's been for our marriage is like we call it Friday night date night. And we actually started doing this about a year ago, but we've really prioritized it. If there's not something going on with the church or some other event, like or with the kids' schedule, because sometimes they may have a play or something at the school. I don't know. That's for me and her, and that's really really paid a lot of dividends, and it's prioritizing that has made me say no to other things on Friday nights, including good things that would involve church people, church invites, but I'm like, I can't be investing in all over the place and pouring into 300 to 400 people's lives in the church and being everything to all people. And I'm not doing that one-on-one time that is quality, because we're always together at night when the kids go to bed, but we're exhausted. That's not time. And that's just been good. The spiritual, it's, I want it to be more regular about Bible reading. And that sounds crazy from a pastor, but let's be clear. I'm reading the Bible every day, all the time already, because I'm always studying to preach. I'm always studying to teach a class, to podcast, to do whatever. But, so this past year it was to read the whole New Testament. And that, again, people say, well, the whole New Testament. I set a goal to read, the whole Bible. Well, good for you. But again, like I'm reading, thick books for my doctoral class by Bavinck. I'm reading Calvin's Institutes all the time. I'm reading the Westminster Standards all the time. I'm writing research papers 3 times a year that require thousands of pages of reading theologically. And so this was just, I'm going to read just the New Testament and even on that, there's days that you miss or skip, and we were doing it as a family and my kids got way behind in the summer. And, so what do? Make them catch up? Do I be that hard dad that's forcing them to read the Bible or whatever? So I just ask them what they want to do, Well, okay, you set a goal at the beginning of the year that you're going to read it. You're behind. By the way, I'm behind too. So do you want to continue with the goal? And they said, yeah. I'm like, okay, you have a couple options. One is you can catch up by reading 2 chapters a day instead of 1. I said, or you can just go past the new year with it. In other words, the year is an arbitrary thing, right? And so I really, in trying to help my kids set goals, I really try to help them not set mom and dad's goals, but set their own goals and own them. And when they struggle with them, let them know it's not me forcing them to do it. They have a choice in how they want to do it. But we do that with our kids, and often we help them with it, because they like a kid setting, what does that mean, And so it's for some of them, it's to get straight A's, and another one, it's make the basketball team. And I'm like, all right, well, if that's your goal, this is January, and you're setting that for October, what are you going to do toward that goal? And then I tell them, okay, now what if you don't make it? Have you thought through that? Is this thing going to be an idol for you? And so I want to teach that balance between being dedicated toward accomplishing, but not making that accomplishment an idol, such that if it doesn't work out, your life crumbles before you. So
I think it's key to not compare yourself to other people, or maybe even make other people's goals or other people's accomplishments your goals on certain things. I mean, on one level, Christians, we all want to have the goal to grow in the grace and knowledge of Christ and so forth, and we all ought to be students of the Word, and I think those are, yes, but on the specifics, and really that's where the goals need to be, is anchored into the specifics of what you can do. I mean, for some people, it's quite feasible to read the entire Bible in a year, and for other people, it's for various reasons it's not, and not to sort of beat yourself up about that. But the key is the value of the new year for me is really the question of how can I really grow this year? What are some ways in which I can be intentional about working out my own salvation with fear and trembling, keeping in mind that it's God who works in me to will and to act according to His good purpose. And so you set these attainable goals that you work on to reach that. I mean, in your, and I love that Fisher acronym. That's great, because there are all these various aspects of our life that come at us, and we're all at different stages of life, and we all have different responsibilities and different abilities and different degrees of what's happening. So set the goal, endeavor to grow, I would say. Endeavor to grow. So, I mean, if you're somewhat, like, for instance, I mean, if you're someone who just, like, hardly has ever really had a discipline of reading the Bible, and you hear of, people, like, they're going to do their reading the Bible in a year plan or what have you. I mean, that might be something that's more than what you are kind of geared to do. So set something reasonable, set something that works for you, and do that. And if you find that you're accomplishing that, then set another goal in March to move beyond it, to grow beyond that.
Right.
But I think that if you compare yourself to other people, you compare your goals or your accomplishments to other people, that's a bottomless pit of either arrogance or despair. I mean, you're going to vacillate between the two, because there's always someone that's probably screwing it up worse than you, and there's always someone that's doing it better than you, and being an arrogant, prideful Christian or a despairing Christian is not really a healthy place to be.
Comparison's a joy killer for sure. It goes back to what you said, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Like, we are given a limited number of days in this life. I mean, we're going to live eternally, of course, but, like, I want to make the most of it. I always have, and the older I get, the more I want to make the most of it. And I never want to look back over time and say I didn't accomplish anything. Like, I didn't do anything, And some people don't feel like that, and that's okay. But I do think God made us to be productive, and thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And he gave us hands and feet to do it. And I think I want to always be learning. I want to always be loving. I want to always be growing. And so that's a lot of my motivation for it. Practically, I think, I heard this years ago, and I'm sure it's a fake statistic like most, but I think anecdotally it's helpful. Like, so many people have ideas in their mind, things they want to do. And if it never leaves their mind, it's like 10% or less of those things actually get done.
Yeah.
Speaking it out loud increases the odds that you'll do it, because it's more there's more reality in speech and something that comes from your head through your mouth. Writing it down, it increases even more to whatever percentage. And then if you think it, speak it, write it, and tell somebody, like if I tell you this is what I'm going to do this year, the chances of you actually doing that and making that a reality go up. I mean, it's over 50%, because you've thought of it, you wrote it, you spoke to somebody about it. Now, we can't be so rigid to never deviate from plans, but if you want to do something, like if you've been thinking you should go back to school, what's stopping you from going back to school? If you've been thinking you want to read the whole Bible in a year, what's stopping you from reading the whole Bible in a year? Set it as a goal, write it down, stick it on a Post-it note on your computer screen or on your bedstand, tell somebody about it, ask somebody to pray for you, and you'll do it. And, a lot of this too is not just the big thing. So there were years where I had big things I wanted to do. Again, applying for a doctoral program, a doctor of ministry was a big thing. And I finally had to go through this. Look, I've been saying this for a couple of years. What's stopping me? I either should do it or I shouldn't do it. And so that was a discrete thing. But for most of the Christian life, it's just habits. And the new year provides you like with a random arbitrary start point to create a new habit. The parties are basically over. So, your money spending on gifts and doing things and all the extra food you'll be eating, maybe it'll come to some normalcy in January, and you can create habits. And I think that Fisher acronym again helps with the habits, because we all can use our resources for the kingdom better. We all can create better habits to help our mind. And the older I get, the more I forget things, and I think I'm also distracted. So that the mind is important. spiritually, we hate the word spiritual disciplines, but for those who have a routine of prayer and being in the Word, there's a peace about them. So we can help create disciplines and practices in our lives, never to replace the daily repenting and believing that we need, never to replace the power of the Spirit, but we can habituate some of this stuff that, when done in and through faith and in the Spirit rather than in the flesh, will produce fruit in our lives. And so, man, wouldn't that be a good thing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the goal of the Christian life is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever.
There's your script. There's your memorization. Westminster Shorter Catechism.
Well,
I know that one. Darin, I know that one. Don't worry.
Don't ask me off the top of my head. Question number 72.
Oh no, you rattle them off, man.
But that's the goal of the Christian. That's the chief end of the Christian life. So broadly, but your goal can't. So your goal is broadly to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. Now, in the specifics of your life, how are you going to seek that out? And you can't put yourself under some legalistic weight of so these are the laws, these are the steps that I'm going to follow, and if I do this, then that outcome will happen. You just can't. You can't do that to yourself. You're under grace. These aren't ways to merit or maintain God's favor upon your life or anything along those lines. But they're just things that you can think about, like in the financial aspect of your life. Where are you right now, and how can you steward the resources that God supplies through you, through your work, to glorify Him and to enjoy Him? How does that affect your giving? How does that affect the purchases that you make, or you're investing, or you're saving, or you're whatever the case may be? I mean, just thinking about those types of things, and how can I glorify God as a parent by seeking to raise my children in the nurture and instruction of the Lord? Like, what's one thing that I can do or stop doing that would improve, would push the needle just a little bit more in that area? And in my marriage or in my singlehood, if you're not married, I mean, you have many. You certainly have burdens and hardships, but you also have opportunities to glorify the Lord and serve Him and love His people and work towards His mission. So how can you do that? Like, how can you use the time and the resources and the giftedness that God has given you? And I think that really, digging down into the particulars and to the specifics is really the way to go on that, and to think about just one thing or two things. I mean, losing 7. I have a friend who lost 100 pounds this year. I mean, my gosh. Wow. He started in January and he lost 100 pounds. Now if I had to eat what he ate, I might lose a bunch of weight, but I would be a very sad and miserable person to be around. But because most of what he had to eat was just nothing but like chlorophyll, and that's not my favorite thing in the world. It's just like green, nothing but that. But he did it. He set this goal. That's not feasible for most people. So, but it might be for you. So just like, what is it that what's one or two things? Just be reasonable about it, and but be intentional. I think and that says something about the Christian life too, right? The Christian life is not coasting. I mean,
Right. Yes.
You don't just drift in the direction of godliness.
Right.
If you want to drift, if you're just going to go plop yourself out in the middle of the ocean, you're going to drift to wherever the current goes, and the current of the world is towards ungodliness. And so you have to be very intentional if you're going to go against that current, and you're going to move forward in the midst of storms or obstacles in your way. You have to be thoughtful and intentional about it, rather than just kind of coasting through life. And what you said made a lot of sense. Like telling people, writing it down, putting it where you can see it, but also telling someone about it. The Christian life is also not a life that is to be led in isolation. When God saves us into Himself, He saves us into His people, and so to be able to fight these battles together, to work through them together, to share them together, to have someone praying for you, and and checking in on you, and you doing the same for them. I mean, that's part of the iron sharpening iron. That's part of the communion of saints. That's part of urging one another towards love and good deeds to the glory of God. And when we have that, rather than just trying to do these things in isolation. I mean, my friend who lost 100 pounds, I know about it because he told me about it, asked me to pray for him about it, because, his health, it was dangerous. And so if you have to lose that much, so it wasn't just he was trying to, be on the cover of, People's Sexiest Man Alive or something. What he was trying to do is love his family and be faithful to God and be a good steward of the body He gave him. And so he told me about it. He told others about it. And I think that having the encouragement of the body of Christ in those endeavors is absolutely necessary for us.
Right.
So
yeah, and there is this thing too, when you set a goal and you tell somebody about it, or you're holding yourself accountable. And again, I've already said, we're not trying to make these things idols, right? But even myself, in starting that diet and exercise program in November rather than waiting till the new year, for me it was like, yeah, but I said I was going to do this in January of this year, and I didn't do it. So what's going to make me do it in January of next year? I'm going to do it. I can still do it, Yeah. And obviously, I don't need to lose a ton of weight, but I want to stay healthy. I want to use, God gave me one body, and I want to care for it. And I definitely feel better when I'm not carrying around extra. And so, so I lost 12 pounds in November. I'm happy about it, and then, I'm going to reboot again in January, because I would have lost more if it wasn't for Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's fine. But then it's I got through November and I said, you know what? I did really well eating, but I really wasn't exercising. And so in December, I started the exercising, and it's all about just wanting to, improve. I will say, I think, some people say, set one goal or two goals. You don't want to set too many. I think we're multifaceted beings. We can set multiple goals. If you don't like the Fisher analogy, financial, intellectual, relational, spiritual, I don't know if I keep missing one. But another one is you could do it in your family life, your work life, and your church life. So that's 3. But really, I'd say you need a personal one too. You need to be taking care of yourself. You need to be growing. You need to be learning. And it's fun, man. It's fun to look back on the year and see what you've accomplished. And that's what I love doing with my kids, is having them set a goal and then throughout the year talking to them about it. And at the end of the year, and again, if they didn't, I'm not hard. I don't say you failed if they didn't do it, Say, well, what do you want to do about that? It's all about helping them to learn how to view these things. So, as I look back on 2022, and I just love what the Lord has done at the church. I love what He's done in our family. I love watching my kids grow. I can't, they're in high school and middle school now, and the time is short, I'm realizing. And you got sort of to 2 phases. You got some of the older ones that you your time is short, and then you got the young ones, and you're like, this is never going to end. But
my goal is to get to the end of 2023 and never purchase another diaper again.
Oh, okay. God has a way of surprising you, you know.
Oh, I know. Yes, I know.
There's this. Yeah. Yeah, that's a goal.
That's a goal.
You know. But I've stuck with the doctoral program. That's good. I've lost some weight. That's good. I could have been more productive in other areas, and for next year, I'm going to be looking to that. We had some great highlights. I was able to take my parents celebrated their 50th anniversary this year, and I was able to drive them up to see his brother in New York, who we hadn't seen in a number of years. And the drive is getting harder for them from Florida, so they drove to me, and then I drove them to New York. And we took them on vacation with us, which has been a goal in my mind for a while. We haven't done vacation with my parents in a long time, and more than a weekend. I don't know if we ever did. So this was a full 10 days. And I know it was important for them. So there were a lot of good highlights. We had 3 adult baptisms in the church, and that was good. I mean, a lot of churches, a lot of PCA churches don't have any adult baptisms. Any people coming to faith that didn't claim faith before. So it was, and and that just encourages you. Man, I want to see more of that. So, and there's a lot of other things for next year. I'm really looking for. I do want to get down to. I still want to lose some more weight. I want to get my cardio up. I want to keep plugging away at this doctoral program. I want to see Meadowview become more outreach minded, and look for ways to do that. And we have a great new group in the missions team added to the existing group that I think we're going to be able to use to help encourage us in that direction. I want to help my kids become, young men and women in Christ, and I'm so proud of them. And my oldest worked on his PSAT all this past summer, and I laid it out for him, and he did it, and then he saw a couple 100-point improvement this year, and so he's at that point where he's got to start looking at college. He's a sophomore, but so I want to help him toward that, help him see the future and then get there, and these are a lot of things that I'm just excited about for the coming year. What are you excited about, Darin?
I'm excited about I'm excited about my doctoral program, and I'm excited about teaching at Birmingham Seminary. And
that's awesome. I wish I could take your class.
Yeah. Well, come on down. It's that's something that I was a teacher, high school. I was a public school, high school teacher before I went to seminary, and I just have kind of always loved teaching. And so I would love to get into that more and to kind of build those opportunities. And so I'm looking forward to that, but I'm also trying to think about, ministry to state this year. This is the long session in our state capitol, which means that they're going to be there since we have divided government, a Democratic governor and a Republican legislature. They're there for a long time trying to work things out. So that's great for they probably hate it, but it's great for ministry for me because they're there for a long time. So there are a lot of new members of the House and Senate and new staffers that I'm looking forward to getting to know and to ministering to. And I want to be faithful in that because now, we over the course of the last few years, we've established a real, I think, presence there. And so building upon that and the networks that God has established is something that I want to take advantage of and do so in such a way that is faithful and beneficial to those people as well, and family life, of course, as well. I'm really, just becoming more and more persuaded, and I mean, not that I wasn't already, but just seeing the need for faithfulness in the family. I mean, teaching our kids the things of the Lord, and trying to help build in them good habits. I mean, it's with each passing day, it just becomes, especially, my oldest is 16 and a half. I mean, it is not going to be long before she's out of the house, and I'm thinking about her, and also thinking about the younger ones and how fast that time really goes. Building in them good spiritual disciplines and a love for the things of God and for His mission and for His church, that's something that, the longer you kick that can down the road, the harder it is to teach those lessons. And so I think that being more and more intentional about that at a younger age, and equipping my kids to really make their faith their faith,
yep.
not my faith, make Christ their Lord, not merely my Lord. That's so that when they go out of the house and become adults, and they face life in all of its issues head on, that they're equipped to live for the glory of God and for enjoyment of Him. And so I want to bring that word to bear upon them. I want to give them a love for the church. I want to give them a love for God's people. I want them to see His mission to make disciples of all nations as being something that they're eager to participate in as well. So all of those things, and then all of the personal goals as well that I could enumerate. But I mean, those are some of the big ones that I think that I would want to just share, bring to bear upon us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess as we wrap up, I just want to read from Ephesians 5. Pulling it up now. Ephesians 5, 15. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. And I think that's a good, at the end of the day, it's about how we're using our time. And God made us thinking creatures to accomplish for His kingdom. And so planning that out, I think, is good. Paul talks about planning things elsewhere also. So great reflections, Darin. The 2022 is coming to a close, and so Happy New Year. And we will take a few weeks off. So if you listen this long, and you don't see any episodes for about 2 weeks after this, we will be back. Probably going to take about 2 weeks off. There's some travel plans, some regrouping. We look forward to 2023. Speaking about goals, we have a number of things we want to talk about. We also have a number of guests we want to interview and have discussions with that I'm really excited about. And so lots to look forward to in 2023. And with that, I sign off.